Scabby Podcast.
In an ancient hotel in room 142 lay two foolhardy fools with nothing to do. They sit and they ponder about movies they've seen while trapped in their room and stare at their TV screen. Sometimes they play songs on the instruments they've amassed. The Pinj and the Maggie on the Scabby Hayze Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Scabby Hayze Podcast. This is your co-host, Pinj.
And I'm your co-host, Maggie.
And this is our movie review week. And we recently saw Spider-Man Far From Home.
We did. We watched it July 2nd.
Yes.
And it was pretty good.
It was... pretty good. It was good. We won't get any spoilers yet. We won't get that far yet. Later on we will. But for a spoiler-free review, I will say that this film feels more... It's trying harder in a good way than the last film. It provides some more different ideas and tries new things with Spider-Man, something we haven't seen before. Obviously, he's traveled to a different place, and this is the first Spider-Man film that hasn't been centered around New York or in New York. And I would say it works well for the most part.
So, short synopsis. Peter Parker is going on a class trip with his classmates to Europe. And, of course, in Spider-Man fashion, there are bad villains and
other problems
certain
that arise.
happenings that occur along the way. And, of course, he is eventually lured in by Nick Fury and has to avenge. Well,
not really.
Save the day.
Yeah, he has to save the day.
I was trying to bring in that he's an Avenger, but...
Yes.
Because now he is.
And a new character has appeared, a certain Mysterio, played by Jake, gynecologist.
Our favorite Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
He's...
coming right up. Glad to have him in this film. Very glad, actually.
Short little fact, quick little fact. This is the first Jake Gyllenhaal movie that I've seen in theaters.
Yes, same for me.
Not that that has anything to do with anything, but I was very excited to see it because I was intrigued by the casting choices made by... who directed this film?
The same guy who directed the last one, John... Give me a second.
Oh, John Watts.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
John Watts.
John Watts. Well, it was a little bit more lighthearted, I thought, than the first one. And to me, personally, the dialogue in some places was a little awkward.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, and I remember thinking the first... it was about, half an hour into the film, I was thinking, this is not as well made as the first one.
In some aspects.
I don't know, it was just a little bit awkward.
I feel the directing is done very well in this film, probably better than the last. There's more interesting ideas shoved into it, but I feel the screenplay is a little bit rougher than the last due to, like you said, the dialogue.
Yeah.
And there are, I feel, a few scenes missing that we could have used just to give the film more...
depth.
Yeah, that's probably a good word for it. However, this is still, I would say, a fairly good movie. I recommend it if you are any kind of a Marvel fan or Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
Worth your time in the I would say it's worth watching in the theaters. But you can wait. I don't feel that it's a must-see in the theater. But if you're a fan, go watch it.
I have to say that now, by now everybody has seen Endgame and knows everything about it. Now that the original Avengers, some of them are gone for good, and we're starting to see a new generation of Avengers, I have to say, Spider-Man is growing very close to being my favorite new Avenger.
Yeah.
Now that Captain America is gone, now that Tony Stark is gone, I really liked them, and they were my favorites for a long time, but now that they're gone, we must move on, and we can't dwell on the past, and now I like Spider-Man.
Tom Holland does really well in this movie.
He is a great actor. Yeah.
Uh-huh. The relationship between MJ and Peter.
Oh, true.
I was a little skeptical in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Actually very skeptical. But seeing it in this film a little bit more filled out, I'm not excited really to see where it goes, but I like where it is going.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I can do that. It feels real too. It doesn't feel shoved. It feels genuine, which works well with the writing.
In the writing of her character, MJ, she's super cold and blunt to the point.
Yeah.
And then almost immediately after Peter tells her his feelings, then all of a sudden she has like all this emotion and like stuff in her voice.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit awkward. I don't know. This movie jumped to
I think it's
character like what am I trying to think of? I don't know how to say it. The characters in this movie progressed very rapidly.
Yes.
And their choices were made very quickly, and certain aspects of the characters that defined them were not completely described or went into detail, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it felt very quick, and it kind of left a void, I thought, where you were left wanting more scenes of the characters and how they got to the decisions that they made. So this movie kind of is a little bit of a roller coaster. Peter is torn between saving the world, living up to Tony's legend, and being the kid that he wants to be, but now has this power and responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult for him to stay a kid and to enjoy all the things that teenagers of his age get to enjoy while being a superhero and trying to live up to everybody's expectations. And it does have a pretty good message. So,
Spoilers?
Well, I'm not going to give up too much anything away. There are a couple scenes where Peter is struggling with the media and the public asking him who's going to be the next Iron Man, who's going to replace Tony. Tony was such a huge, iconic superhero of his day, and he was an inventor and a genius and all this tech and stuff that he invented.
He was the Avenger.
Yeah, pretty much. And so everybody wants to know who's going to replace him, who's going to be the next Iron Man. And so Peter is struggling with that and assuming that everyone wants him to step up and say, I'll be the next Iron Man and I'll replace Tony Stark. But in the back of his mind, he knows that he can't be. But he feels all this pressure from the media and people looking to Spider-Man because they knew that he was Tony Stark's ward or whatever. Yeah. But in the end, he says, I'm not Iron Man. And I can't be Iron Man. I can't live up to that. But I can do the best that I can. I can still be Spider-Man. And I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. I'm glad that they didn't try to replace Iron Man with Spider-Man. Because in Spider-Man Homecoming, when Tony Stark, I guess in Civil War, when Tony finds Peter and he starts mentoring him and coaching him and trying to help him cope with his powers, and then you're like, oh, he's going to take Peter Parker under his wing, and Peter Parker's going to kind of turn out like Tony Stark, and he's going to, look up to him, and he's going to be his role model. And in a way he is, but not to be exactly like him. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, I think it's kind of cool that he just wants to be Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be Tony.
Yeah, it was shown a little bit in Homecoming, where he's given the offer to be the Iron Spider, get the Iron Spider suit, and be one of the Avengers. He's like, no, I want to be Spider-Man. I want to be the little guy and help people out.
Friendly neighborhood.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I know at least some people in the first one, they were really kind of aggravated at first with how the Spider-Man suit had AI and has all this crazy new tech. And then it's actually part of integrated into the story and how, he doesn't need any of that to be Spider-Man.
Right.
And it's cool to see that continue into Far From Home.
Now let's get into some spoilers.
All right.
Mysterio!
Yes!
Mysterio was good at first, and then... Okay.
Turned out bad.
So, there's these things called the elementals.
Yeah.
And there's like a fire one and a water one. It's basically a storm with a face.
Yeah.
And Mysterio actually created them. They're projections by drones that is actually Stark tech. Mm-hmm. Because Mysterio, or Quentin Beck, worked for Tony Stark and gained access to all his tech and stuff like that after Tony died. Mm-hmm. And he wants to create these projections and create this superhero for people to believe and for people to love and, respect.
Kind of a syndrome situation going on here.
He wants to be a superhero for the fame.
Yeah.
And so he creates this superhero Mysterio for people to look up to him just because he wants to be famous.
Yeah.
And he wants people to respect him.
This is a great interpretation from the comics of Mysterio.
Actually, Quentin Beck got fired.
Yeah.
Tony Stark fired him.
I like the whole kind of underdog story there of like these ragtag group of like throwaways almost.
And at first I was like, oh no, this is gonna be like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
I haven't seen Iron Man 3 yet.
You haven't seen it, but the storyline is kind of similar.
It's like Syndromes, isn't it? If I remember right.
Yes, it is. It's like, oh, you rejected me when I asked if you needed my help, and you said no, so now I'm gonna be bad, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
and
I like the...
It's a little bit like that.
Yeah, it's a little...
But they did it well.
The scene where he's having the speech is a little goofy, I felt, but Jake Gyllenhaal's acting makes it work so well. He's so, like, intensified by it and excited, ecstatic.
And Gyllenhaal is great at those intense characters with... They're kind of troubled. Mm-hmm. And they relieve the tension by blowing up and, making dramatic scenes. Yeah. Giving huge speeches and...
Yeah. A very, like you said, desperate.
Yeah.
Like, once he gets to some parts, he's like, oh, don't you even dare.
Yeah.
Such like that. Where it has to be perfect and all this.
And
he does it really well without the audience having to be told that's how he is. It works really well.
I really liked his character, but that was the part where I was left wanting more scenes of him. And I felt like it jumped to the decisions that he made, why he got to the place where he is, was very fast.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been helpful to have a couple extra scenes in there where he comes to the conclusions that he comes to, or a couple more scenes with he and Spider-Man trying to become friends.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to earn his trust.
I do kind of get why...
And then betray him later.
I do kind of get why they kind of rushed it. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but to give the feeling of the Spider-Man is really kind of gullible in that way,
Yeah,
to where he just assumes,
he's
he's
just a kid,
good.
yeah.
To where he just assumes, this guy is good, you know.
But also, it also shows Peter Parker's humbleness in that he got Tony Stark's message where it says, to the next Tony Stark, I trust you. He assumes that, of course he couldn't be talking about me.
Yeah.
I'm just a kid, you know.
And it is interesting, too, because they've run with that a couple of times. I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see his kind of denial of the fact that he is Spider-Man and he has so much weight or responsibility on himself.
Yeah. But, I mean, he is just a kid, and I'm glad that he, recognizes it.
Uh-huh. Mysterio is great in this film, and as much as I would like to see more, obviously we didn't get that.
Yeah.
But I do really, really, really like the stuff we got.
I did, but it would have been better if there was more.
I know.
And also the final scene where he dies, where Mysterio finally dies. I did like where there were scenes, it was very fast, and you thought, oh, he's dead. And then it wasn't reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tries to shoot Peter, but Peter shoots him, and then he's dead. And I was hoping for a little bit of a desperate, maybe fist-to-fist fight at the end.
Yeah.
Instead of... I mean, after all, he was just human.
But it does come into play later at the end with the post-credits. Yes!
What?
If they're doing the Sinister Six, which is a very iconic group of supervillains, then Sinister Six, original ones, contain Doc Ock, Electro, Kraven the Hunter, Sandman, Vulture, and Mysterio. So if we're getting a Sinister Six, we might get him back.
If they're doing that, then maybe they're gonna make 6 Spider-Man movies, and then they're gonna make another one with all of them.
Yeah, that would be awesome. They've already done Vulture, and they're doing...
They did Mysterio.
Yeah. Next one might be... If it's any of the Sinister Six, we know it's coming, which is awesome. Because we haven't fully gotten them in movies yet.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool. Hopefully Mysterio isn't dead. It
kind of seems like it.
It kind of seems like it, but it's kind of dumb to assume that he is, but then again it isn't, because he got shot, but it's Mysterio we're talking about, the guy who's all about deception.
It does kind of seem to be a pattern. I know there's only 2 movies made, but neither of the villains
have died.
Well, I mean, it showed Mysterio at least pretending to be dead.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know.
But it is...
He did only get shot once.
It is...
You can survive that, but...
Yeah. It is strange that his friend, after completely losing, would release the video. Maybe for revenge, but that'd be kind of dumb. Okay, speaking of spoilers, let's talk about the post-credits.
Yeah.
The first one. Let's talk about the first one.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll get to the second one. J.K. Simmons returns as J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Our whole... the people we went to go see with the... Well, we didn't go to see it with them. But our audience that we watched it with was all flipping out. They're like, oh, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, totally wasn't expecting that. And then the part where it shows Mysterio revealing the identity and the screen turns black and then he says it. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
That was great.
He completely just...
Gave it away.
Gave away his identity.
Yep.
And now the public knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And there's a gigantic picture of him, so nobody can deny it.
Yeah. Which is really crazy.
Yeah. But first, before everybody else finds out, MJ knows about it. Yeah. Well, she guesses, and then it's confirmed by Spider-Man himself. He's like, yeah, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, I like that. I like that scene where she says, are you joking with me? Because this isn't funny.
I liked it when he's like, when he tells her, I have something to tell you and I wanted to tell you for a while. And he's talking about his feelings for her
Yeah.
as, you know, he wants to be her boyfriend or whatever. And she's like, "You're Spider-Man."
Yeah.
And it throws him back. He's like, "What? Wait, what?"
Oh,
What?
I'm definitely not Spider-Man.
No, I'm not
yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
She's like, "It's kind of obvious." Yeah, that was a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
Also, the scene... The water monster in...
Vienna? No, not Vienna. What am I thinking?
Venice.
Yeah, Venice.
Venice.
It's the V city.
That's a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
There's a shot from like above looking down, and it's a really wide shot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the monster on one side, and then the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and then like, you know, it's coming out of the water, and there's like the city right there.
Yeah.
I don't know, it looks cool.
Yeah,
And then Mysterio comes out and starts throwing green stuff at it.
I think they were a little more creative in the cinematography in this film than the last.
Mm-hmm.
The Homecoming felt very basic and simple in its cinematography. Nothing too crazy or original.
Homecoming was a great movie, though.
It was a pretty good movie, yeah. But with this film, I felt a little more creativity in what was being shown and how they showed it.
All right, let's talk about the final
Yeah.
end credit scene.
Let's talk about that.
What the heck?
What
What in the world was that?
That was really pointless.
Okay, so...
I was hoping for Quentin Beck returning. That's what I was really hoping for.
Yeah.
Clearly, we didn't get that. We got Nick Fury being Talos and his wife.
Yeah, the Skrulls?
Yeah. Why didn't we
So,
get that?
was Nick Fury a Skrull all the way through the movie? Was Nick Fury a Skrull all the way through all the Marvel movies?
I don't think all the way through, because he got shot in Winter Soldier. And Skrulls, when they're hurt, if I remember right from Captain Marvel, they return back to their former selves. I could be wrong on that. I could be totally wrong. I probably am. So there's that. I don't think he's been a Skrull this whole time, but I think maybe since sometime in Endgame.
I did think that Nick Fury was acting a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Wasn't his acting a little bit off?
Yeah.
Almost kind of like Samuel Jackson forgot how to be Nick Fury.
Well, they could have been doing that on
right,
purpose.
but then that's what I was thinking. I thought maybe they were doing it on purpose
Clearly
because
they have
he
another
was a Skrull or whatever.
Yeah, clearly they have another storyline that's going on.
And actually...
They didn't really explain it at all with the post-credits.
No, yeah, Nick Fury's living on the Skrulls planet.
No, the Skrull ship, I think it is.
Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was so weird.
They didn't... I guess it's a mystery, but
Everyone...
they didn't have anything to make you wonder, oh, what's going to happen next? It's just kind of, what the heck was that?
Yeah, that's what everybody in the theater
Yeah.
that stayed for the after credits.
It's like, what?
I said, what? Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Wait, what? Yeah, that was interesting.
Yep.
Let's address the comedy in this film. Comedy is subjective, obviously.
Right.
And I felt this was, for the most part, a funny film. However, some of the jokes did not land or just dragged on way too long.
Mm-hmm. Now, what they consider the blip is...
Oh, we should address the blip.
That
was really funny. That was
Now,
hysterical.
When Thanos snapped and disintegrated people...
They called it the blip.
And the Avengers in Endgame brought everybody back. Everyone who wasn't blipped aged 5 years.
Yes.
And everyone who came back was the same age as when they were snapped.
Yeah.
So the people nowadays, after everyone was brought back, calls that significant happening the blip.
Mm-hmm.
So some people, half the population is 5 years older, and half the population stayed the same.
Uh-huh.
And yeah.
They did a good job at addressing that and seeing how the world is affected by that.
And they also made it comedic,
Yeah.
which was entertaining. And that aspect of the movie was entertaining.
Yeah. How the world deals with all of that.
Right.
The whole weird shift of people being 5 years older and such.
Right. some of the other jokes just, like...
They dragged on either too long or just...
Or they weren't funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt it was a little forced. Some of the humor was a little forced. Like, the producers felt they had to...
Add more humor into it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it more funny.
It could be.
Maybe it didn't need to be.
It could just be we're more cynical than others.
Could be, yeah. And that's probably the case.
Yeah, it probably is. But still, I felt some jokes dragged on way too long. Like the whole witches idea by the one teacher. They kept on bringing that back.
Right.
I don't know. Some people might have found it funny. I felt some of it, as you mentioned, like not long after we got out of the theater. I wish some scenes would have been removed. Some not so useful stuff would have been removed to make way for maybe just one more scene with Mysterio before we realize he's bad. I think at least one more would have done it.
Right.
But as mentioned before, I guess I can see why they did that, so Peter seems more unaware of Beck and his true identity, I guess, in a way.
It just seems pretty quick.
Yeah.
Everything happens so fast.
Kind of rushed.
Right. Because you don't see very much of Mysterio and Spider-Man together, but Spider-Man trusts Mysterio and gives him Tony Stark's glasses, which helps him control the drones and everything like that. But it doesn't do a very good job of showing us to where he came to trust Mysterio. There's one scene where he talks to him about wanting to talk to MJ and stuff like that, but I mean, other than that, they hadn't even really talked that much together. But then all of a sudden Spider-Man says, well, you're my friend and I trusted you, and you're kind of...
It is the whole assumption thing, because he's working with Nick Fury, and he seems like a superhero, so obviously, he's trustworthy.
Right.
And it's just assumed, but, it's completely wrong.
Yeah. It's the delusion that Mysterio created, but they still should have... They should have given us some more scenes.
I want to talk about that one scene where Peter Parker goes to tell Nick Fury about Mysterio and how Quentin Beck has been faking the entire thing. So Peter is in, I want to say, an airport, and
it's like in an abandoned.
He bumps into He bumps into Nick Fury in a car, and they drive to what is assumed to be some place where Nick Fury works. He's gonna tell him about it, and then we find out that Mysterio faked it. And there's this beautiful, fantastic scene of these crazy hologram images just completely messing with
Peter Parker's head.
Yeah. And it's almost directly out of the comics, but still being completely original in what it is. My word, my mouth was agape through that scene. It was just straight out of the comics. It was so good. Do we want to address the Peter Tingle?
No.
Why they call it that?
No.
Okay.
That was a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Happy and...
Yeah, that was weird and kind of pointless. I
mean, it wasn't really bad.
It wasn't... It didn't harm anything. It was harmless, but...
Yeah. It was... That's kind of like an epitome of everything else in that movie. Things just moved way too fast and left you questioning.
What was the point of that?
Yeah. What was the point of that? What just happened?
Yeah.
And when are they going to explain what just happened?
The one thing I feel where that does work is random Betty and Ned's relationship that just happened.
Yeah,
that was probably the funniest part of the film.
But that was supposed to be. That was the comic of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I feel like the whole description, like the movie could be described as little kiddish. Not necessarily in a bad way, but the jokes were kind of immature. And things moved really fast, so you didn't have to, keep your attention on them for very long. And, I don't know, it was just set up like a little kid's movie. There wasn't that much depth or heart in it. I feel like there was a little bit more heart in Homecoming.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel the same way about Homecoming with this film. Some of the jokes just don't land. And granted, that's comedy, obviously. But it felt very simple and...
Yeah.
It lacked some depth in some parts.
Yeah, it was simple. Not better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. Definitely not funnier.
I disagree with that.
What? You liked it better than Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yeah.
We gonna have a fight. Ant-Man and the Wasp is genius.
It's alright.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's good.
It's probably the funniest
I liked it better than most people, probably. Same with you. But I think this film has more creativity in it. Definitely much better acting. This film has great acting. Mostly due to Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal and...
Yeah, not Nick Fury.
Well, they might have been doing that because he's a Skrull or whatever. What was that?
I don't know. That was so weird.
That was so random. I don't know if they were trying to do, like, oh, it's a great big twist. And it paid off terribly. Or if they're introducing a new story.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're introducing a new story.
They may have been trying to get this over with real fast so they can move on to something a little bit bigger.
It could be.
Because that's kind of what it felt like. Kind of like the Captain Marvel movie. They wanted to get that story over with so they could introduce Captain Marvel.
It could be.
And get her character started. But they needed a quick story to introduce her. And that's what they didn't. Because that movie also felt very rushed. A little bit shallow.
Yeah.
So.
Very by the book.
Yeah.
We have to have the scene where she's in trouble and she has to get up and fight.
And we have to have the scene where she finally realizes who she is. And
yeah.
There has to be a couple tears and then let's get that over with. And then.
Yeah.
And then Jude Law is like. All of a sudden. In fact, those movies are very similar. And I kind of view them a little bit the same way. Jude Law is such a fantastic actor. He can bring so much to a character, and they didn't give him his full potential. In that film, we could have had way more scenes with him in it. They could have had a way bigger fight at the end.
Yeah.
And they just kind of... Like, why they even cast him? He's a great actor. Jake Gyllenhaal is the same way. He can bring so much...
They did bring
into
a lot,
character.
Though.
Yeah, they did. They did with Mysterio. They did more with Mysterio than they did with Jude Law.
Yeah.
But
I really liked Mysterio in this film. Definitely.
I did too, but I wanted
the
more.
Best aspect. Yeah, it's hard.
It wasn't. I'm not.
There were a lot more stories to juggle with, though. Obviously, MJ and Peter accepting that he's not going to be the next Iron Man, but he will be Spider-Man. That he'll be. That they had other stuff to deal with.
I think maybe they tried to put too much into one.
I don't know. I don't know. I would say this film is pretty good. So I would say they get it mostly right. A little bit more Mysterio would have made it better, definitely.
No, a lot more Mysterio.
Yeah, that's true. But still, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. If you want.
Okay.
Do you have any final thoughts about the film?
I recommend it. Go see it. Go watch it.
Yep.
You will probably need to at least see it before the next movie that comes out.
Whatever it is.
Right.
I don't know, we have like a whole... Heck, we probably have a whole year till whatever that is comes out.
Which is sad.
I think it's a Black Widow movie, maybe? I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah, but go see it. It is good.
Yep.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
I'd say between Fantastic Four and the first Captain America, it's probably right around Captain Marvel.
What? No, it's right around Homecoming.
No, I thought Homecoming was better.
I would say they're equally good. Each have their flaws, but they're good.
They could have given us more Mysterio
Yeah.
and developed that character, because he was the best thing about that movie. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how can you not want more Jake Gyllenhaal? Especially as Mysterio.
Yeah, I know.
But what they did and what they had was pretty good. And I can be mostly content with that.
Right.
Mostly. Okay. Real quick, though. Let's... Avengers Endgame was re-released for a few days to try to beat Avatar. Maggie and I went out to go see it with a friend because she had never seen Endgame before. And obviously we've seen the film before and we wanted to see, hey, what's going to be in the post-credits? And there's a nice little Stan Lee cameo tribute. That was nice.
That was really cool.
And then...
there was an outtake, a scene that they didn't use in the final cut.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that they didn't, because it was really weird.
Yeah, it was pretty out of
That
place.
was a weird thing to add in.
I don't know why they couldn't have had something else. I'm sure they had more than that.
It was so weird.
It was a big letdown.
Yeah, it was.
For paying...
Like,
for
we
rewatch...
waited all that time for that.
I mean, granted... It's... you're still watching Endgame, so it's not that big of a loss.
And then there was...
But to bring people back to rewatch the film, they should have been...
Right.
They should have added something else.
Yeah. Hey, check the box office real quick and see what happened.
It didn't beat it.
It didn't?
No.
I didn't figure. That's what they get for adding in the bad scene.
And then they also added a little preview of Far From Home, which is like, oh, cool. But it was literally the first scene in Far From Home. So it was kind of pointless, because we were planning on watching it anyways.
Yeah.
And it was 2 days before it came out.
Right.
Yeah, a little disappointing.
I don't know. I feel like they're kind of letting their game down.
With what?
With, I don't know, the decisions that they're making, and I don't know, it just, they're not as good as the originals.
Well, it's completely different. It's really different, really.
Sad. I know, but I don't like it. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I want them to make as good movies as they did before, just with new characters.
Hey,
why can't they just do that?
Far From Home was a good movie.
Yeah, it was.
It had good characters.
It was a good movie, but
moved on. New stuff.
I mean, can you honestly compare it to Captain America? Can you compare it to Civil War?
Ooh, that's hard.
Can you compare it to the first Captain America? Can
Yeah.
you compare it to the first Avengers?
Yeah, some of it, yeah. I mean, there's good stuff in the film.
I know, but...
And there's good character development, really good character development. And it continues the story. It doesn't keep it paused, in a sense. Similar to what we had from, like, Doctor Strange to Infinity War, where it felt almost all the stories were paused until Infinity War, and it sped up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But this is continuing character arcs and storylines, and it's pretty great.
Alrighty, well, tune in next week.
We're gonna do some music.
Let us know what you think about our podcasts. If you want to comment on any of our posts, we're on Instagram and Twitter If you want to listen to any of our old episodes, we're on iTunes and Podbean and YouTube.
Yeah.
And iTunes. So let us know if you're listening and if you like what we're putting out. If you want to change anything, constructive criticism is always appreciated.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
See you next week.